Welcome to Hacking HR Portland. We don't talk about disabilities when we talk about inclusion enough. And Emily brings her lived experience and so much heart to destigmatizing disabilities in the workplace. So I'll pass it over to Emily to talk more about that.
What is one of the qualities you look for in a close friend?
Ooh, I am going to say, which they're kind of the same, honesty but realness. Like, I like to get the real from people. I don't want the fake. I don't want the interview you. I want the real you. Who are you when no one's looking? Talk to me like you do when no one's looking. I think that's, I'm going to say real. Just raw. Just real. Yes. Okay. Well, thank you very much for being here. I'm really excited to be here. My name is Emily Purry again, and I'm going to talk about disability, accessibility, accommodations, and the future of work. So when we look at in 2015, 51% of people who disclosed disability were of working age, 17 to 64. Of the 51%, 35.9% of those people were working. They were employed in all of our organizations, 35.9%. When we look at people and how they work at work, as many as 65% of those people used accommodations at work. And those accommodations varied from flexible schedules to speech readers to hearing devices to wheelchairs to ramps to the range is broad when we look at accommodations. And that's why it says up to 65%, because some of them are informal requests, as we all know, some are formal requests for accommodations. So it's hard to track. When we look at that in people terms, as many as over 4 million people are out there working. 4 million people, like myself, are out there working using accommodations. Think about that for a moment, because if those 4 million people didn't have accommodations and we weren't thinking about technology, what would that look like in the future of our work? So let's get into this a little deeper. 1 in 5 people currently report having a disability, and that's often underreported because of the stigma that comes along with disability. The other thing about this statistic is any able-bodied person in this room right now could become one of my community at any moment. So the fact that we need to think about this, be aware of this, and really consider this in all of our technology and our development is crucial to every one of our lives at some point. Also, like I mentioned, if there are over 4 million people that we weren't thinking about in the advancement of technology, if we were advancing technology without the thought of accessibility, there's 4 million people looking for unemployment, living off government assistance. Over 4 million people that once had a career who had now, in the blink of an eye, changed because of technology and not considering accessibility. On a little happier note, if we are considering accessibility in our technology advancements, there's the potential. Not every working aged adult can work that has a disability, but there's the potential for 15.1% of an increase in the employment numbers. I think we're around 3 point something in the US here. We could solve that if we have the right accessibility, if we look at the right tools with just a portion of that 15.1%. Then we also look at the diversity of thought. How many of you have ever used an automatic door button? I'm not going to make you raise your hand, but how many of you actually had to use that due to a disability? Probably not nearly as many, if any. The thought and the diversity of thought that people with disabilities brings to organizations is proven over and over and over again to help everybody, not just people with disabilities. Often companies' arguments is, it's too expensive and there's just one person with a vision disability. My response is, number one, there's a reason there's only one person with a vision disability if you're not thinking about accessibility. Number two, if we look at processes, procedures, policies from a disability lens, it's going to benefit all of us at some point in our life, especially when we're looking at the aging population of our workforce. Retirement age is getting further and further out. We got to be thinking about this not from a disability standpoint, from just a pure accessibility standpoint. So, what is your jobs here today? We really want, number one, diversity is huge. Diversity is a huge conversation that's happening. It's a trendy thing right now, which is amazing and so much needed. We need to get disability involved in that discussion. We really need disability to also be on the forefront of people's minds. When we hear diversity, it's not just race and gender. which are extremely important topics as well. Again, with a diversity of thought, if we're bringing disability and accessibility into that conversation, it's only going to make all of us better, move faster, work harder, be more productive, change the world. Also, looking at the educating. So a lot of our diversity programs also look at education. It's mostly gender, race, some of the ageism, microaggressions, bias, all those things play into disability in a sense. But when was the last time you could actually ask a question about disability and not feel shamed for doing so? Really trying to learn about disability and disability awareness within your organization. We need to educate our employees. We really need to engage them. We need to focus on making a culture shift versus a program, a diversity program, really looking to change that culture and saying, wow, such and such organization, they're killing it. They're making all these efforts. They're educating their employees. They're normalizing conversations. They're making the ground move. We need to start doing that. We also need to change perceptions about disability. There's a recent study that said over 36% of people believe that people with disabilities are less productive than people without disabilities. To me, for somebody who's been on my feet all day today with 3 presentations and working a full-time job, I'm like, hey, don't do that to me, come on. But we got to change those perceptions, and that is up to all of us. The diagram in the middle is something I'm very passionate about, and that's all oppression is connected. If we can link our arms and come together instead of this oppression Olympics kind of thing that's going on in a lot of organizations. We need a race, no gender, no disability, no ageism, no this, no that. Let's link arms and figure out how to solve this and burn it to the ground, like Katie said. We are powerful, we move faster, and we are better together than separate. And then lastly, really engaging employees in these conversations. Employees, staff, families, anybody who you're working with in the conversations around disability. It's, again, getting that engagement, really learning what we need instead of guessing, trying to figure it out and then saying, oh, great, we got to do this over again because now we messed it up and we didn't think about accessibility. So the good news is not all of this is up to all of you, HR. Anybody here tonight, anybody listening on YouTube, anybody anywhere, it is all of our jobs. The reason INCIGHT, the organization I work for, was founded was because the 2 founders were asking children with and without disabilities, what do you want to be when you grow up? What do you want to do when you grow up? Kids without disabilities, I want to be a fireman, I want to be a policeman, I want to be an astronaut, I want to do this, I want to do that. Firing off things, 100 at a time. Kids with disabilities would sit there and look, and we're quiet, and then look up at their parents. Anybody in this room that has influence over children, we need to have expectations and goals for our kids, all kids, every kid of every ability, of every color, of every economic status. Without hope, they are not going to grow up to be productive and have a purpose and be excited about having a career just like the rest of us. And that's up to all of us. Don't lower your expectations, whether that's kids, whether that's your coworkers, whether that's your employees, whoever that is. Never lower your expectations for people with disabilities. Give them the tools they need. Find out how to support them. Don't leave them in the dark and just say, figure it out. But don't lower your expectations. It's disrespectful and it's so discouraging for a person with disability to have that experience. And then looking at really normalizing this conversation. I talk to many organizations from here to California about normalizing the disability conversation. We need to start talking. We need to start asking, as I call them, the 6-year-old questions. We are all 6-year-olds in the world of disability because we were never able to ask the questions. We were never able to build that knowledge, that foundation, so that we can move past these moments and become more than 6-year-olds. But right now, it's just starting to get us out there and getting us engaged. So let people really normalize the conversations in your organizations, in your families. And I actually learned this from a transgender coworker of mine. And they said, hey, when somebody asks, is that a boy or a girl? Don't tell them, when a kid asks, is that a boy or a girl? Don't shun them, don't shame them. All that teaches them is that we don't talk about that. We need to be shameful of that piece of us. We need to be in hiding. Don't, that's no. Obviously, if we can teach the kids to ask in a respectful way and we can answer, oh, I have a guide dog because my eyes don't work as well as yours. And that's why she helps me stay safe. If we can answer those questions, it's not something we have to hide, and that's what's teaching our young kids how to navigate through this world much differently than all of us did. And then asking the questions. Find people you can ask the questions to. Look, I don't trust the internet. but find people that are willing, like myself, to talk about disability, to talk about my experiences with disabilities. Not everybody has to and not everybody will, and that's okay too. But find people you can trust, engage with them, ask for community engagement groups if you don't have enough employees at your organization. Organize a focus group, find some way to communicate with people with disabilities, to find out, ask these questions, get raw, get real, just like I said, about this issue. Finally, to wrap up, technology and accessibility can literally make or break me and people like me in my community. I can work every day because of the accessibility features I have on my computer. I can come here today because of the technology and the accessibility we have available. However, if you take that away from me, no matter how hard I try, no matter how hard I squint or strain or try to read my emails, without accessibility, without voiceover, without Zoom, without those things, I cannot be in the workforce. Every oppressed culture may not be comfortable in their environment. They may not have a great experience in their environment, but the bottom line is they can still do their job other than external stresses. If I don't have what I need, I can't even come in the door and do my job. So my ask today is think technology, think advancements, and please keep accessibility integrated into all of those thoughts.